Almighty God, we give thanks to you, the creator of the universe, and humbly beseech you to direct and prosper the deliberations of the members of this house here assembled for the advancement of your glory and the trust and welfare of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Grant that peace and happiness, truth and justice may be established among us for all generations. Amen, amen, namaste.
Oath or affirmation, announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, correspondence has been received from the President of the Senate dated March 29, 2023, which states as follows. Dear Speaker, rechange in membership of Joint Select Committees. Reference is made to the subject at caption. At a sitting held on Tuesday, March 28, 2023, I made the following announcement. In accordance with Senate Standing Order 98-2, Mr. Nigel de Freitas was appointed to serve on the Joint Select Committee on Government Assurances in lieu of Ms. Christine Kanglu, with effect from January 18, 2023. Accordingly, I respectfully request that the House of Representatives be informed of this decision at the earliest convenience, please. Thank you. Respectfully, Nigel de Freitas, President of the Senate.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers.
The Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the economic sanctions implementation of United Nations resolutions on the Islamic Republic of Iran Order 2023.
The Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers. Paper number 2, the statement of Her Excellency, the President, on the economic sanctions implementation of United Nations resolutions on the Islamic Republic of Iran, Order 2023. Number 3, the 35th Annual Report of the Integrity Commission of Trinidad and Tobago for the year ending December 31st, 2022. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have the, the honor to lay the following papers. The statement of the annual report on audited financial statements of the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission for the year ended September 30th, 2022. 5 to 6, the reports of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the National Agricultural Marketing and Development Corporation for the years ended September 30, 2020 and September 30, 2021. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the financial statements of the Borough Corporation for the year ended September 30, 2014. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that these papers 4 to 7 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee.
Honourable members, the question is that papers 4 to 7 be referred to the Public Accounts Committee. All in favour say aye. Any against? The ayes have it. The Minister of Sport and Community Development.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Sport and Community Development, I have the honor to lay paper number 8, the Annual Administrative Report of the Ministry of Community Development, Culture and the Arts for the fiscal year 2019 to 2020.
The Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following one second, Madam Speaker. Speaker, apologies. I have the honor to lay the following: the administrative reports of the National Training Agency, NTA, for the fiscal years 2014, 2015, and 2015 to 2016.
The Minister of Public Administration.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Public Administration, I have the honor to lay the following papers. Paper number 11, the annual report of the Ministry of Public Administration and Communications for the fiscal year 2015 to 2016, and the annual report of the Ministry of Public Administration and Communications for the fiscal year 2016 to 2017. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly once again, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to lay the following papers. Paper number 13, the ministerial response of the Ministry of Health to the fourth report of the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration on an inquiry into the mental health and psychosocial services available to the population during the COVID-19 pandemic, with specific focus on measures to curb substance abuse and suicide. Paper number 14, the response of the Office of the Prime Minister to the fourth report of the Joint Select Committee on Human Rights, Equality and Diversity on an inquiry into the role of the state in preserving the cultural heritage of the indigenous peoples, First Peoples of Trinidad and Tobago. Paper number 15, the response of the Tobago House of Assembly to the fourth report of the Joint Select Committee on Land and Physical Infrastructure on an inquiry into the impact of landfills on the environment of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker.
Committees.
The member for Tonopuna.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to present paper number 1. The 11th report of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions and Statutory Authorities, including the THA, on a follow-up examination into the recommendations contained in the first report of the committee on the administration and operations of the Land Settlement Agency in relation to squatter regularization, 11th Parliament. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Lupino, Bonnier West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to present the interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Shipping Bill 2020, third session 2022 to 2023, 12th Parliament.
Member for San Fernando East.
Madam Speaker, I have the honor to present the interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider the report on the Fisheries Management No. 2 Bill 2020, third session 2022 to 2023, 12th Parliament. Thank you.
Member for Aruka Maloney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have the honor to present the interim report of the Joint Select Committee on the Representation of the People Amendment No. 2 Bill 2020, third session, 2022-2023, 12th Parliament.
Prime Minister's questions, urgent questions.
Member for Pointe-a-Pierre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Attorney General, given the recent announcement by the Attorney General that the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act has been fully proclaimed, will the Attorney General state whether Mr. Munilal Lalchan is still the procurement regulator, and if not, who is currently performing this key role?
General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In answer to the question, I say 3 things. The question is incorrectly premised. It states that the Public Proclamation Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act has been fully proclaimed. The media release which I issued yesterday said that the act will be proclaimed on Wednesday, the 26th of April. That's next Wednesday. So that's an incorrect premise. Secondly, Mr. Munilal Lalchan was first appointed as chairman of the procurement and as procurement regulator on January 12th, and his term of office came to an end on January 11th, 2023. The procurement regulator's office has issued public advisory number 18, and that advisory states that the procurement regulator, having retired, his office is being discharged by the deputy procurement regulator until further notice. Thank you very much.
Member for point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the Attorney General supplemental, thank you for your follow-up. Could you state why Mr. Munilal Lalchan, as the original procurement regulator, was not reappointed to this post?
Member, I will not allow that question as a supplemental question. Member for Kamuto Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister of Public Utilities, in light of absence of a regular supply of pipe-borne water to the citizens in several parts of Kamoto Manzanilla, especially Guayco, Tamina, Caratal, Carmichael, among others, will the Honourable Minister state when will the authorities be able to address this growing water deficit in these areas, among others? Thank you.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the area stated in this question are served by the North Urupuch water treatment plant, whose maximum capacity or production is 20 million gallons of water per day. Because of dry season conditions, Madam Speaker, currently the plant is producing 18 million gallons of water per day, which obviously is impacting on communities on the extremities of that particular plant. In fiscal 2022 to 2023, Madam Speaker, as the Honourable Member would confirm, we have commenced a number of programs in this particular area, including the reconstruction of a booster station in the Manzanilla area, which assisted a number of communities on the extremities of that North Urupuch system. We have also commissioned, Madam Speaker, a new Tamina well, which is currently producing 90,000 gallons of water per day, again improving water supply to this particular community. And we have also commissioned, Madam Speaker, a new booster station in the Tamina area, bringing water to supply to a number of homes for the very first time. In the coming months, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Public Utilities, working in collaboration with the Water and Sewage Authority, will continue to harness groundwater resources in the Sangre Grande area. We intend to drill 3 additional wells in the Aripo area as well as in the Ture Road community. We have already started the refurbishment of the North Urupuch water treatment plant, which will bring stability in the water supply to many of the communities mentioned in the question. And therefore, I wish to assure the Honourable Member that despite the success of some of the projects that I mentioned in fiscal 2022 to 2023, the Ministry of Public Utilities, in collaboration with the Water and Sewage Authority, will continue to pursue projects and programs to improve the water supply in the communities mentioned in the question.
Member for Kamuto Manzanilla.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister of Public Utilities, when would we see it likely that the Ture Dam, which is in national quarries, may be commissioned? Thank you.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, the plan for the winning of new water sources in the Ture area are well underway. We have already commenced discussions with all of the state agencies, the Environmental Management Authority, etc. We are also planning to drill additional wells in the Ture Road area, and as those wells come into operation, the people in Kamuto, Manzanilla, and all of the areas mentioned in the question will see and continue to experience a gradual improvement in their water supply. So we will not await until the completion of that new water treatment facility in the Two-Way Road area, but as wells come into operation, the people in those communities will see and experience an improvement in their water supply, as they have been enjoying at this present time.
Member for Princess now.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, to the Honourable Minister. Minister, in light of the answer that you provided, recently the chairman of WASA spoke about a water trucking racket. And many of these communities in rural areas like...
Member, you have 15 seconds to ask the question. So kindly ask the question.
Minister, the question is in terms of this being a short-term relief measure, can you indicate how this situation at WASA with respect to the water trucking issue has impacted in terms of bringing short-term measure relief through water trucking to these communities?
Member, having regard to the question asked and the answers given, this question is about pipe-borne water. I rule your question out of order.
Questions on notice, questions for oral answer.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are 21 questions for oral response because we are notified that one of the questions is no longer being asked, and we'll be answering all those for oral response. There are 20 questions for written response. We'll be answering 16 of those. We're asking for a deferral of questions 79, 97, 99, and 106.
Honourable members, by correspondence dated April 18, 2023, and in accordance with Standing Order 2914, the member for Point Appear requested that the House of Representatives question number 132, listed on today's order paper, be withdrawn. So the first question, I now call upon the member for Oropouche West. Yeah?
Yeah, Madam Speaker, I rise on Standing Order 29-113, which deals with the deferral of questions. And I note that question number 79 to the Minister of National Security was deferred for 2 weeks on January 23, 2023, February 10, 2023, February 24, 2023, and again on March 22, 2023, and it was not answered today. After 3 months of deferral, Madam Speaker, I'm requesting that you kindly write to the Minister of National Security seeking reasons for the delay in answering.
Noted, member for Naparima. So I call upon the member for Oropouche West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, question number 94 to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The TTRA has advised that the firm of Ernst & Young was hired by the TTRA via a broad-based tendering process to develop the TTRA's strategic plan.
Member for Oropouche West.
Minister, can you advise what was the cost of this contract awarded to Ernst & Young?
Minister of Finance.
I don't have that, Madam Speaker. I didn't anticipate that. I have the names of the firms who tendered, but he didn't ask for costs. So if he poses the question, I will answer it in the usual manner.
Member for Oropouche West.
For the supplemental, Minister, given that the TTRA is now in the process of hiring staff, can the Minister advise what is the time frame for the submission of this strategic plan?
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I am very confused. As a member of this honorable House, I distinctly remember in persona laying the strategic plan for the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority in this House some time ago. So I don't understand why the members ask me that question. The question makes no sense.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question 107 to the Minister of Public Utilities.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a policy decision has been taken that where there is a need to adjust water schedules to impose more restrictive conditions in the light of changing supply conditions, no adjustments would be made to schedules in areas in receipt of a level of service of 24/3 and under. This would include areas in the constituency of Couva South, which are in receipt of a 1 in 9 schedule in some of the areas. However, areas with a more consistent and regular supply may experience some curtailment to allow for a more even distribution of the resource. Where there are revisions to schedules, as was the case a few days ago, when WASA implemented its 2023 dry season water schedules for Trinidad and Tobago, effective April 17, 2021, the new schedules will be published on the authority's website and its social media pages. Madam Speaker, I am pleased to advise the Honourable Member for Couva South that on the completion of works currently in train for the drilling of 3 new wells in the Freeport Aquifer and the equipping of another at California, communities in the constituency of Couva South that are in receipt of a water schedule or water supply of 1 in every 9 days will experience a significant improvement in their supply of water.
Member for Couva South.
Madam Speaker, could the Minister inform this House the initiatives which she just referred to, when they will be actually implemented by WASA in the constituency of Couva South?
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I'm sure the member for Couva South is fully cognizant of all the activities taking place in this constituency. And that being said, Madam Speaker, the drilling of those wells have already commenced, and I expect them to be completed in 1 month's time.
Member for Couva South.
Madam Speaker, given the Road Apple's response of the Minister of Public Utilities, could the Minister indicate if he's aware that the areas I have referred to, constituents are waiting for a pipe-borne water supply in excess of 15 days consistently for the last year?
The Water and Sewage Authority made a number of publications and public statements with respect to its inability to provide some of the water to the affected communities in the constituency of Couva South. They've made a number of public press statements. I have mandated that they call the necessary news conference so that they can inform the citizenry. It is not only on WASA side. A lot of the areas being mentioned are fed off the Salcott plant, which has reduced its production capacity as a result of challenges on that plant by 3 or 4 million gallons of water. And when you have those challenges taking place outside of WASA's control, Madam Speaker, it impacts upon the authority's capacity to adhere to the schedules in those areas. And we are working with the Salcott and all our stakeholders, including the Ministry of Public Utilities, to pursue a number of initiatives that will give the authority the ability and the capacity to present and to provide the people of Couva South with a more reliable supply of water.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. To the Minister again. Minister, taking into consideration the current state of affairs and that apparently WASA has collapsed under your tenureship, could you really indicate, or are you satisfied that constituents in the areas that I have referred to has to rely on a truck-borne water supply from WASA given in the last year or so? Are you satisfied with the response from WASA?
Minister.
Madam Speaker, let me say that WASA has not collapsed. The UNC has collapsed and collapsed long time ago. And the argument and the partial for bacchanal and confusion on the part of the member for Cuba South has collapsed. But that being said, Madam Speaker,
incompetence. This is not bacchanal.
Member for Cuba South. Member for Cuba South. Could you kindly desist? Member for... Member for Cuba South. Member for Cuba South. I would ask you, having asked your question, after the response, if you can go outside, take a little 5 minutes and come back in. You deliberately put on your mic to say what you had to say, and you know that's not proper. All right?
I will leave the chamber, but
Member, I am sure you don't mean that, but I also know that you're quite an experienced member, and therefore maybe when you go outside you'll find my authority. Please don't let me exercise it further. Member for Miaro.
Right to speak.
Member for Miaro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 108 to the Minister of Public Utilities.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Member for Cuba South, I am trying my best to deal with you in the fairest of manners. You said you will go outside. Maybe then you will collect yourself and be able to come back and carry on with the decorum demanded here. I understand your passion, but please, maybe outside you'll be able to contain it. Member for Miaro.
Question number 108 to the Minister of Public Utilities.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in July 2018, given the non-existence of electrical infrastructure along the Manzanilla-Miaro Road, 80 solar LED street lighting poles with battery backup were installed along the road. The installation of these solar LED streetlights is consistent with government's plan for the development and execution of a full-scale energy conservation and energy efficiency program for the country pursuant to our National Development Strategy, Vision 2030, and our nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. Madam Speaker, TNTEC has advised that subsequently between June 2021 and May 2022, 316 of the battery packs valued at TT $773,488 were stolen as follows. On the 9th of June 2021, batteries stolen 168, poles affected 42. On the 5th of April 2022, batteries stolen 60, poles impacted 15. On the 18th of May 2022, 88 batteries were stolen and 22 of the poles were impacted. A total of 316 batteries were stolen, Madam Speaker, and 79 poles were impacted. Following the May 2022 incident, TNTEC removed the remaining batteries to ensure there were no further loss resulting from theft, pending the putting in place of effective security measures to safeguard and protect these assets, involving the greater use, Madam Speaker, of technology. TNTEC has advised that the redesign of the system, inclusive of enhanced security features, has been completed and that the reinstallation of the lights will be done in stages commencing by May 2023 and projected to be completed by June 2023.
Member for Miaro.
Madam Speaker, question 109 to the Minister of Works and Transport.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, connectivity between the communities of Manzanilla and Miaro has been restored via a temporary roadway which spans the breach section of the roadway disrupted by the November 2022 flood event. Designs for a medium-term repair strategy is near completion, and the tendering process is expected to commence during the month of April 2023. Construction works are expected to commence in May 2023 and to be completed before the height of the 2023 rainy season. These works will entail repairs to the failed section of the roadway and upgrade to the existing roadway to withstand the effects associated with the overtopping of the Nariva swamp. A long-term sustainable designs for the roadway is also being planned, but will be fully developed on the completion of the study of the wetland, coastlines, and the interaction with the roadway. The long-term design is expected to commence once the study is completed. Thank you.
Member for Miaro.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the response. Based on the fact that there is no guarantee that the completion will be in this 2023, the bypass road itself has some challenges. Would the Minister consider a more permanent resurfacing of that road, since it's a bone of contention with the motoring public at this time?
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I don't know where the member got the information. Our aim is to have the road restored in 2023, and we are working towards that. So there's no need at this point in time to look for an alternative. We have to remember it's the wetland, it's in the river swamp, it's a protected area, and we cannot do anything permanent in the swamp. But we are driving to have the road completed before, as I said, the height of the rainy season. Thank you.
Member for Kabucha Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question number 110 to the Honourable Minister of Health.
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. On January 15th, 2023, the Minister of Health signed the Pharmacy Board Amendment Regulations 2023, which allows for practicing certificates issued to pharmacists, which were valid and subsistent immediately before January 14, 2023, to remain in force until a certificate for the period January 15, 2023 to January 14, 2024 is issued by the Pharmacy Board of Trinidad and Tobago, provided that the requisite annual retention fee was paid. Further, on January 31st, 2023, the Minister of Health signed the Pharmacy Board Amendment Number 2 Regulations 2023, which allows for a pharmacy license issued for the use of any premises for carrying on business as a pharmacy, which was valid and subsistent immediately before February 1st, 2023, to remain in force until a pharmacy license for the period February 1st, 2023 to January 31st, 2024 is issued by the Pharmacy Board of Trinidad and Tobago, provided that the requisite renewal fee was paid. The Ministry of Health is presently collaborating with the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs to determine the legislative framework necessary to mitigate against future delays and/or discrepancies. Thank you very much.
Member for Couva South.
They're very passionate. They get water yet?
He went to check.
Good question.
We had question 111.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In the most responsible of manners. Question number 111 to the Minister of Finance.
Minister of Finance.
I never am. Madam Speaker, as it relates to the status of the scanners to be acquired for the use by the Customs and Excise Division at the Port of Port of Spain, to replace the 4 mobile scanners, the following information is appropriate. Tenders were published in December of 2022, December 20th, with a closing date of January the 26th, 2023. However, the closing date for submission of tenders was then extended to February the 9th, 2023. Tenders were received on February 9, 2023, with 7 offers as follows. Sectus Technologies Incorporated, Telecommunications Services of Trinidad and Tobago, New Tech Company Limited, Precision Point Caribbean Limited, Hilltech Services Limited, Installation Technologies International BV, and PRD Security Services Limited. The initial evaluation and preparation of the shortlist of the qualified tenderers was then completed by March the 31st, 2023. Site visits are currently in progress to inspect and view the scanner systems proposed by the shortlisted firms in actual operation in a working port environment. These site visits will be completed on the 23rd of April 2023. The decision on the best scanner proposal is expected to be made by April the 28th, 2023. The award of contract is expected on May the 5th, 2023. And the time for manufacture of the new scanners will be determined upon completion of the exercise currently being conducted by the Evaluation Committee. But it is expected that the delivery and installation of the mobile scanners will be completed in fiscal year 2024.
Member for Vancouver South.
So, Minister, given that the fact that the homicide rate currently stands at 182 and home invasions continue to occur with impunity in this country on a daily basis, you are in no position to inform this House when
Member for Vancouver South. Is this a question? You have 15 seconds. This is not a time for statements. I believe you have no question?
Yes.
Could you kindly ask the question? 15 seconds. And we have a clock that counts down seconds.
Minister, could you inform this House when these scanners will, the date that they will become operational? That is the issue.
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, my answer was crystal clear. We expect an award of contract on the 5th of May, 2023. Scanners are not shelf items. You can't go to the supermarket and buy a scanner. So once the successful bidder is awarded the contract, they will proceed to manufacture the scanners for our port in Port of Spain. This is why I said that we expect the scanners to be installed and commissioned in fiscal year 2024. I was crystal clear.
Member for Vancouver South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Given that there is no urgency on the part of the government, could the Minister inform this House if there are functioning fixed or mobile scanners at the ports of San Fernando, Scarborough, Point Fortin, and Chagaramas?
Member, while I understand, I can't allow that question under the standing orders, in that your question referred to Port of Spain. Member for Naparima.
Thank you. Minister, given the fact that you said the scanners will become operational in 2024, does it mean that guns will come into Trinidad unchecked in the ports of Trinidad and Tobago until that time?
Again, member, having regard to the question asked and the answer given, I rule that question out of order. Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honourable Minister, you have given certain indication of a number of suppliers who would have tendered for this project. What is the average time frame, Honourable Minister? And so you're speaking. Honourable Minister, what is the average time frame for the production of these scanners?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Once the award is made, that will be determined. But I am reasonably confident that these scanners will be operational in fiscal 2024.
Member for Oakwood West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, given that you have indicated that the existing scanners are not functional at this point in time.
Minister, you'll be allowed an opportunity to answer the question. please allow the question to be asked. I'll determine if it will be allowed. Member for Puchas.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, given that there are now 4 non-functional scanners, can the Minister has indicated that we are looking at fiscal 2024 for the operationalization of new scanners. Can the Minister indicate what has been put in place to address the the security deficit that has been caused by the absence of these scanners?
Madam Speaker, I believe it is a matter of record that we have fixed scanners operational. We are speaking here about mobile scanners. In addition, as I've said before, in Trinidad and Tobago, we physically inspect as much as 20% of containers. The world average is 5%. So there are many other mechanisms that are in place for the inspection of containers.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question 112 to the Minister of Public Utilities.
Minister of Public Utilities.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. In announcing the commencement of the dry season 2023, the Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service underscored inter alia the likely reduction in surface water flows as a result of reduced precipitation. Such a situation negatively impacts water availability, as reduced precipitation results in a decrease in reservoir levels at WASA's main impounding reservoirs, that is Caroni Arena, Hollis, Navet, Hillsborough, and Corland, as well as reduced river flows throughout the country. In this regard, Madam Speaker, it is to be noted that most of the water that WASA produces, which is approximately 60%, comes from surface water sources, from its impounding dams, reservoirs, rural intakes, and springs. Madam Speaker, at the onset of the dry season 2023, the country experienced higher than normal levels of rainfall, as a result of which, during the first 3 months, reservoir levels remained close to their long-term averages, and river flows did not decline significantly. The water supply situation also benefited from the improved management of the leaks, innovation and technology, as well as from the rehabilitation of wells in several areas around Trinidad and Tobago. It was not necessary to implement water restriction schedules at the onset of the dry season, as is normally the case. However, as the dry season enters its peak period, reservoir levels have begun to decline below their long-term averages, particularly at Hollis and Navet, with levels falling to 42% and 51% respectively. Madam Speaker, it is against this backdrop that effective April 17, 2023, WASA implemented its 2023 dry season water supply schedules for Trinidad and Tobago to manage the supply as reservoir levels recuperated during the rainy season. The new schedules were published on the authority's website, www.wasa.gov.tt, and all its social media pages. And to minimize the impact of the dry season, Madam Speaker, WASA customers, a decision has been taken that for the remainder of the dry season, until the end of June, all domestic customers who receive a scheduled pipe-borne supply of 2 days or less per week can place a request for truck-borne supply with all conditions waived for same. No matter their financial standing with the authority, all domestic customers will have access to truck-borne service at no cost to them, and the authority's truck-borne service can be requested through all of its technological platforms, Madam Speaker.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Given the long-winded response of the Minister, could the Minister give this House the assurance that WASA will indeed stick to the published water schedules, and where it goes beyond the prescribed water schedules, there will be a focused truck-borne supply of provision of a concerted or focused truck-borne supply in constituencies that have been suffering as a result of your incompetence?
Minister of Public Utilities.
Let me say first that the people of Trinidad and Tobago will not agree with the Honourable Member for Couva South. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, if we have to see incompetence, we can just look at the conduct of the member for Couva South. his conduct in Parliament is the epitome of incompetence as a member of Parliament. And that being said, Madam Speaker, that being said, let me say again and remind the national population that despite the challenges, we are doing everything that is possible to ensure that communities that are unserved and underserved, especially during these difficult conditions, that we have waived the water trucking policy of WASA to ensure that all domestic customers of the authority will have access to a truck-borne water supply despite their financial standing with the authority. It is the very first time in this country that has ever been done. And I am proud to say that this government, working in collaboration with the Water and Sewage Authority, despite the challenges on its grid and on its network, will ensure that communities that are unserved and underserved will have access to water in Trinidad and Tobago.
Member for Cooper South. Member for Cooper South.
Madam Speaker, given the second Road Apple's response of the Minister this afternoon, could the Minister, having reduced WASA and the citizens of this country to the point where we have to depend on a truck-borne water supply, could the Minister inform this House what has he done in WASA to overhaul the call center to ensure that truck-borne water is delivered to suffering people in less than 24 or 48 hours?
Member, having regard to the question, original question, and the answer, that question is out of order. Member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 114 to the Minister of Social Development and Family Services.
Minister of Social Development and Family Services.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Social Development and Family Services, the Ministry has processed all income support grants. However, there is a total of 417 income support grant checks that remain uncollected. The Ministry has taken appropriate measures to notify the persons in question that they should come to collect their income support grants. This was done via advertisements on the Ministry's social media and website platforms, as well as in the print media, over the periods July 17th to 26th, 2021, October 7th to 20th, 2021, November 22nd and 23rd, 2021, January 26th to February 2nd, 2022, and November 10th to 16th, 2022. The Ministry will continue to reach out to the persons whose checks remain uncollected in an effort to complete this initiative. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, based on the Minister responding, her response as it relates to uncollected checks versus processed applications, Minister, can you state whether these 417 outstanding income support grants to be collected are a part of the 1,154 applications, outstanding applications as at October 2022, coming from the Phase 1 COVID-19 relief?
Madam Speaker, with regard to the Phase 1 COVID-19 relief intervention, income support was given for retrenched, terminated, income reduced for an initial period not exceeding 3 months. 50,087 households were paid to date, and the expenditure was $154,896,020. Income support for persons who were current beneficiaries of the public assistance and disability assistance grants. We paid 42,451 households, and the expenditure was $22,520,250. We also paid for Phase 1 income support for retrenched, terminated, income reduced for an initial period not exceeding 3 months for Tobago, and that number was 1,749 persons for an expenditure of $5,290,500. So we paid 94,287 households for a total expenditure of $182,706,770. With regard to income support for phase 2, we paid 1,306 households for a total of $3,571,930. Therefore, Madam Speaker, the total number of beneficiaries was 95,593 for Trinidad and Tobago, for a total sum of $186,278,700, and this total represents the total expenditure for Trinidad and Tobago. And consequently, Madam Speaker, all the processes were done to ensure that those persons who applied and were and could get the grant, were eligible for the grant, were in fact processed, and all those persons have been paid, all who were eligible.
East.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Again, given the Minister's response, Minister, can you clarify? In your first response, you stated 417 income support grants are outstanding. Can you state whether these are processed grants or these are uncollected checks for the purposes of the members of public?
Madam Speaker, I was very clear. I said there were 417 uncollected checks. And we keep advertising, asking people to come in to collect their checks. We have done so from 2021 to 2022. And we keep reaching out to these persons to collect their checks. 417 processed checks available that were uncollected.
Member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, given the Minister's response, Minister, based on information given by the Social Development Ministry, can you state, or are you in a position to state, whether there are any particular reasons as to why, as at October 2022, a total number of 1,154 individuals were awaiting income support grants from the Ministry Phase 1 COVID-19, and this does not relate to uncollected checks according to the Ministry's information.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, we do not have that information. I do not know where the member for Chaguanas East has got that information. I have indicated that there are 417 processed checks that have been uncollected since 2021.
Member for Chaguanas East.
Madam Speaker, given the Minister's response, Minister, are you in a position to give this country the commitment that based on this information of 1,154 given by the Ministry, whether you would check with the Ministry to give an appropriate timeline as to these persons who are waiting when they will receive their checks?
Minister.
Madam Speaker, I have indicated that the Ministry has been processing persons. If there are any persons who have not yet been processed, it would be passing strange. However, if persons remain unprocessed, they will be processed, and once they qualify, they will receive their checks.
Member for Caroni East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 118 to the Minister of Works and Transport.
Minister of Works and Transport.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, schedule the Silton works for the area listed above as follows. Palm Drive Outfall Drain, Las Lomas number 1, going downstream. Governor Trace Drain, Governor Trace to Las Lomas Road number 1. Pandora Ravine, McLean Trace, Las Lomas number 1 to Carney South Bank Road, Las Lomas number 2. Casabel Ravine, Las Lomas Road number 1 to Guayma River. Cunopia River downstream and tributaries, Savory Road Extension Lane, Las Lomas number 1 to Fairmont Garden Chin Chin Road. Crystal Drive Outfall and tributaries, Carney Arena Road to Arena River, Las Lomas number 3. Guayma River upstream, Madras Road to the Ministry of Agriculture Livestock Station, El Carmen. Balata Ravine, Carney South Bank Road, El Carmen number 2 to Madras Road. El Carmen Main Drain and tributaries, Bisnath Singh Trace, El Carmen number 2 to Constantine Road in St. Helena. St. Helena Main Drain, downstream and tributaries, Madras Road to Sunarine Trace in St. Helena. Tributaries to Balata Ravine, upstream Madras Road to St. Helena. Carney River Embankment, Carney River Embankment, Steelwork Lane, La Solita Road to La Solita Floodgates, Kelly Village. Carney River Embankment Outfall, La Solita Road, Kelly Village. Carney River Embankment, Carney Embankment, Church Street, Kelly Village. Guayma River upstream, Southern Main Road to Kelly Irrigation, Carney. China Main Ravine, Sunarine Trace, Kelly to Guayma River. Guayma River upstream, Kelly Irrigation Channel. Guayma River upstream, Hira Trace to Madras Road. Genspec Drain, Warren Road, Cunopia to the Guayma River. JSB Channel to DI Irrigation Drain, Guayma River to Bujarak Road, Warren. Bovel Channel, Warren Main Road to Ajuda Road, Warren. Bovel Channel, Ajuda Road, Warren to UBH southbound. Monroe Road Outfall Drain, Monroe Road to Biokal Road, Warren. Warren Main Outfall Drain, Robert Trace, Warrenville to the Guayma River. And that is just for your constituency. Lots of work going on. Thank you.
Honorable members. Time. Honorable members, the time allotted for questions for oral answers has expired. The unanswered questions will be postponed to the next sitting in accordance with Standing Order 2910. And upon the request for the member of Naparima, the appropriate letter regarding question 79 shall be written to the minister. The other questions are deferred for 2 weeks.
Request for leave to move the adjournment of the House on definite matters of urgent public importance. Statements by ministers, personal explanations, introduction of bills, motions relating to the business or sittings of the House, and moved by a minister.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very kindly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, having regard to the interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Shipping Bill 2020, I beg to move that the committee be allowed an extension of 5 months to complete its work and submit a final report by September 8th, 2023.
Honorable members, the question is that the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Shipping Bill 2020 be allowed an extension of 5 months to complete its work and submit a final report by September 8th, 2023. All in favor say aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. Leader of the House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, having regard to the interim report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Fisheries Management No. 2 Bill 2020, I beg to move that the committee be allowed an extension of 5 months to complete its work and submit a final report by September 1st, 2023.
Honourable members, the question is that a Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Fisheries Management No. 2 Bill 2020 be allowed an extension of 5 months to complete its work and submit a final report by September 1st, 2023. All in favour say aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. Leader of the House.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, having regard to the interim report of the Joint Select Committee on the Representation of the People Amendment No. 2 Bill 2020, I beg to move that the committee be allowed an extension of 5 months to complete its work and submit a final report by August 31st, 2023. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that a Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the Representation of People Amendment No. 2 Bill 2020 be allowed an extension of 5 months to complete its work and submit a final report by August 31st, 2023. All in favour say aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it.
Public Business, Government Business, Bill, second reading.
Honourable members, the debate on the second reading of the following bill, which was in progress when the House adjourned on Friday, February 10th, 2023, will be resumed. A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, to establish the Borough of Diego Martin and the Borough of Siparia, and to make consequential amendments to the Representation of the People Act, Chapter 201, the Interpretation Act, Chapter 301, the Elections and Boundaries Commission, Local Government and Tobago House of Assembly Act, Chapter 2550, the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Regulations, Chapter 4850, the Central Tenders Board Act, Chapter 7991, and other written laws. I now call upon the member for Arima, who has 22 minutes of original speaking time left.
Madam Speaker, before the members debates, I would like to put on the record that this lineup of debating this bill now was not told to me until this morning, Madam Speaker. What was arranged with my member for Veruca Maloney was a different lineup, and I only got notice early this morning, Madam Speaker. And again, this is a growing trend by the leader of government business to keep changing the process that we do business here today, Madam Speaker. So I would just like to voice our objection of the lineup that was proposed on the floor by the member.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I find it passing strange that the member for Point-a-Pear would talk about the lineup. Madam Speaker, we did have a discussion on this, and I did indicate to the member for Point-a-Pear that this bill would have been on the... I can show you the WhatsApp.
Don't waste our time, please.
I can show you the WhatsApp if it's necessary. But let me also indicate that, Madam Speaker, this was one of the matters that I did indicate to my friend would be debated today once we had enough time. And, Madam Speaker, let me also indicate that the order paper, that the standing orders state quite clearly that the order paper means a document showing the business before the House in the sequence in which orders of business are called. Let me also indicate to my friend, Madam Speaker, that this bill was brought from the second session. It was originally introduced on November 10th, 2021, and the debate began on February 10th, 2023. And Madam Speaker, I am very surprised if his colleagues are not prepared to debate this bill, which started previously. This is a bill that had already been, the debate had already started. It came on the order paper since November 10th, 2021. So I'm surprised that they're not ready to debate. And Madam Speaker,
Please continue.
Madam Speaker, furthermore, on the last occasion that we debated this bill, we were on our legs in the person of the member for Orima. So it is clear that we had not finished this debate and they should have been ready whenever it was called.
Member for Orima.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and it is my pleasure to continue my contribution. I started my contribution, Madam Speaker, on the 10th of February in relation to this bill that is before.
Let's get on with the business. I've recognized the member for Orima. Please continue.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I was saying that it's my pleasure to continue my contribution that I started on the 10th of February in relation to this bill that is before us today to amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504. This is a very important step on the road to local government reform, and it is another manifestation of this government's commitment to good, equitable, and transparent governance as prescribed in our National Development Strategy. The debate on this bill today is a movement away from talk and policy and a framework for the implementation of local government reform. And it's a manifestation of the leadership and vision of the administration led by the Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The clear intent is to improve every aspect of the lives of the burgesses of Diego Martin and Siparia. Madam Speaker, I recognize that members opposite have not been willing to give this government credit for this very bold initiative, but as Minister of Planning and Development, I fully endorse and support this decision. The miscellaneous provisions, establishment of the Borough of Diego Martin and the Borough of Siparia Act 2021 is another manifestation of the government's commitment to good, equitable, and transparent governance as prescribed in our National Development Strategy Vision 2030 under Theme 2 of Vision 2020, a theme titled Delivering Good Governance and Service Excellence. This government is committed to good, equitable, and transparent governance as prescribed in our National Development Strategy Vision 2030 under Theme 3 of Vision 2030, a theme titled Delivering Good Governance and Service Excellence. Madam Speaker, I am heartened to add that our realization of the aforementioned goals as heightened in Theme 2 of the National Development Strategy is complemented by our adoption of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that is Goal 10, Reduce Inequalities, Goal 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, and Goal 17, Partnerships. The elevation of the municipal regions of Diego Martin and Siparia to the status of boroughs, as stated in this bill being debated today, is an idea grounded in the practical necessity to recognize the reality of the importance of local government as the first line of governance structure accessible to our citizens. This is another legislative step in a comprehensive suite of pieces of legislation advanced by this government to ensure that citizens of Trinidad and Tobago enjoy better access to government services through the decentralization of central government functions to local government and the empowerment of local government to achieve more to provide a wider scope of services to the public, and of course, to develop structures for management and accountability for the utilization of the resources. In today's Trinidad and Tobago, Madam Speaker, the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 25(4), outlines a hierarchy of local government consisting of cities, boroughs, and corporation. And as we know, there are 2 cities, there are 3 boroughs, and 11 regions at this time. A borough is a unit of local government headed by the mayor, and there is ministerial oversight for the borough through the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Development, which is headed by the Cabinet Minister. Madam Speaker, the bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 25(04), to establish the Borough of Diego Martin and Siparia, and to make consequential amendments to the Representations of People Act, Chapter 201, the Interpretation Act, the Elections and Boundaries Act, and other written laws, refers to the proposal transition of status for these 2 regions. As Minister with responsibility for planning, land use, planning, and spatial or physical development in Trinidad and Tobago, I can proudly say that this bill heralds significant benefits for the burgesses of Diego Martin and Siparia. Madam Speaker, I wholly support this bill to amend the Municipal Corporations Act, owing to the enhanced physical, economic, and social benefits which can be realized through the change in municipal status via an elevation to borough status of Diego Martin and Siparia. From a land use and physical development perspective, the regions of Diego Martin and Siparia will now be placed in a higher level on the nation's hierarchy of settlements. This is not a decision made in an ad hoc manner or without consideration of the holistic approach to national development. Madam Speaker, with the passage of this bill, benefits will accrue to the citizens and inhabitants, the new boroughs themselves, and ultimately to our beloved Trinidad and Tobago. Considering land use and development in the communities of focus in this bill, advantages include enhanced site development standards that will be applicable to the borough cores or central business districts, which are also known as CBDs, and other areas within the new borough. Central business districts, Madam Speaker, are a key factor in land use planning because of their importance, so that many interesting issues for communities such as success of local and regional economy, the movement of goods and people, as well as to the contribution and life and culture of municipalities and more. The idea, of course, of amending the Municipal Corporations Act to establish the Borough of Diego Martin and Siparia has an important connection in the area of job creation. Central business districts are often a major source of employment for city or town. Their formation creates a home for a concentration of businesses, which in turn can have a significant impact on a region's economy, while providing many residents with valuable jobs. Madam Speaker, with the amendment of this Municipal Corporations Act, with reference to residential development, there of course will now be higher residential densities, typically medium and high-rise apartment building in urban locations, higher building heights, and improved buildings, and of course site coverages. What this allows is a means of facilitating more living and commercial spaces which are not allowed at this time within these communities. So, Madam Speaker, what we are looking at is the opportunity to enhance living spaces for families, breathing more life and liveliness into these spaces. Regarding, of course, the issue of commercial development within Diego Martin and Siparia boroughs will be entitled to appropriate high-density commercial activity, attracting greater commercial activity leading to improved local economic development, as I indicated before, job creation, and improved economic circumstances for the burgesses. Madam Speaker, through this bill, a higher level of community services can be developed to include the issues of public infrastructure, recreational and other community services. Overall, increased property values and improved quality of life and well-being for burgesses can be achieved as a result of the improved circumstances that are intended. The passage of this bill will undoubtedly promote the emergence of political traditions that we are familiar with as it relates to boroughs, and that is to say that in relation to Diego Martin and Siparia, they will now be headed by mayors, whose roles, of course, will include greater engagement with burgesses and the establishment of traditions built on the unique natural, cultural, historical, and/or social features of their boroughs. These traditions are likely to reinforce the affinity that burgesses have for their respective boroughs and promote, of course, a sense of identity, a healthy development that will result in greater engagement with the borough corporations and foster greater citizen engagement in the democratic process. Madam Speaker, the National Development Strategy Vision 2030 articulates the broad policy framework for the development and the overarching national vision to 2030, the national development priorities in the form of short-term goals, along with the main strategic initiatives for achieving the thematic area, which is putting people first, nurturing our greatest asset, acknowledging that citizens are central to the development, in fact, are our greatest assets. Madam Speaker, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, being, of course, a party to the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, is committed to the achieving of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and we talk about Goal 17, which I think is very important for which would be now the boroughs of Chaguanas and Siparia, which is the issues of sustainable cities and communities, which aims to make cities and human settlements safe, resilient, and sustainable. As the Diego Martin and Siparia regions are growing urbanized center, upgrading the borough status will facilitate the sustainable development line as it relates to Goal 17. The transition to borough will enable the targeted delivery of more public goods and services, which will serve to stimulate economic activity and enhance the quality of life and preserve the environment. Furthermore, it will facilitate sustainable urban planning and development through the provisions of relevant infrastructure, for example, transportation, sanitation, waste management, disaster risk reduction, and access to information as well as information. Madam Speaker, we also understand that the emergence of climate threats and considerations, the evolution and elevation of local government in these two boroughs offers a chance to manage development sustainably whilst improving preparedness and response capacities of the local authorities who, as first responders, are key to the building of resilience in the communities within their boundaries. Madam Speaker, as Trinidad and Tobago marches boldly into the 21st century, the establishment of the boroughs of Diego Martin and Siparia is a timely and welcome development that augurs well for our brothers and sisters who reside in these two respective areas. They too are about to begin to enjoy a more intimate relationship with local governance, and the successful passing of this bill is key. It behoves us, Madam Speaker, every well-meaning member of this House, every patriotic citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, to give our unconditional support to a bill that benefits our fellow men, women, and children, regardless of creed, race, and political affiliation. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Member for Maruga Tableland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for acknowledging me as I rise to make a contribution on this bill before us here today. Madam Speaker, as we about to, well, the member before me would have restarted the debate. But Madam Speaker, much would have happened in Siparia when last this debate would have been started. And I would have heard the member before me said it's a movement away from talk and to policy. Madam Speaker, but I would say this bill is just mere endorsement of continued talk and nothing concrete. Madam Speaker, the member before me said it's an evolution of local government. But anyone that reads the bill before us here today will conclude, and I will illustrate as I develop my argument, that it's a mere name change that comes with nothing for the regions of both Diego Martin or Siparia. As my colleague would have stated, rank without bank. And when she said that, when the member for Chaguanas would have said that, Madam Speaker, that stayed with me. Because basically, this bill is basically that, Madam Speaker, a name change. Nothing more than a name change. From the onset, Madam Speaker, I would like to state that I would have proudly served my country as a local government councillor. Local government is important because all politics is local. Politics to me is service, Madam Speaker. Politics to us on this side of the House is service to the people. My time in service as a local government practitioner made me first understand the importance of empathy and humility in public life. It is necessary to appreciate that the landslip threatening a family home, a pothole damaging a private vehicle, something the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago know all too well because of this administration and their failure in office. Or mosquitoes plaguing a village is the greatest importance to burgesses, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this administration sometimes neglect their duties and that they were put there to deliver the people from the problems that are faced. People in local government, they care not about your ability, they care not about your qualifications, they care not about your status quo, because this bill is about status quo. What they care about is your ability to deliver them from their problems. And it is in that context of bringing solutions, and that context only, any reform to local government legislation ought to be contemplated. It should be, Madam Speaker, built on solutions. This bill seeks to amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, to establish the Borough of Diego Martin and the Borough of Siparia. Unfortunately, instead of bringing forth solutions, Madam Speaker, this bill appears to be cosmetic in nature. Cosmetic, and as the member that spoke before me would have listed out the rest of bills that would be amended. And again, that is basically a name change in those bills. A number of operational problems have been identified in local government. From inception to date, problems that stem from excessive political direction from this administration, this PNM government, Madam Speaker. Who is responsible for denying the people their constitutional right, not once but twice, Madam Speaker, all in the name of local government reform? In 2006, for a period of 4 years, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago were denied their rights. This was done again in the name of local government reform in 2022. Madam Speaker, persons again were denied their right to vote. The recommendations and proposals for the introduction of changes within this bill continue to be mere buzzwords. I heard the member said it comes with benefits, Madam Speaker, and I would have run back through the bill, and I still did not see what benefits, Madam Speaker, it comes with. And probably when the minister winds up, he will indicate some of these benefits. The bill, in essence, seeks to request 2 name changes and for the House to approve the 2 name changes. From the region of Digomartin and the region of Siparia to the Borough of Digomartin and the Borough of Siparia. Therefore, Madam Speaker, unanswered questions and lack of transparency as to how we arrived here today. Regional corporations are dependent on central government for funding. There can be support for the Borough initiative, Madam Speaker, as we on this side have no problem with supporting once it is substantive and improve the quality of life of the people. The decision must be transparent and in accordance with the principles and standards of open and good governance. But, Madam Speaker, we on this side, as I said, we refuse to accept this cosmetic and superficial change. Therefore, we seek answers. And these questions was asked by my colleague, and I want to commend her on her contribution, the member for St. Augustine. When she asks, how was Siparia and Digomartin chosen, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, I heard the member before me said it comes with benefits. And again, we need to ask, because it's not stated, it is not written out in the Act, if this bill would improve garbage collection. Would it improve, or does it come with enough financial allocations to improve footpaths, recreational grounds? Madam Speaker, police service, because the municipal police, Madam Speaker, is housed in these both regional corporations, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the fire service. And when last we met till now, Madam Speaker, a great tragedy would have taken place in Siparia. And that is because the fire station was not outfitted with a fire appliance, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and for me to stand here and not mention, because of the lack of one minister with regards to the allocation, and we will sit here during the appropriation bill, and they would say we could allocate or we could move funds when funds is needed, Madam Speaker. But because no specific allocation was listed out when we sat with regards to providing the tender for the fire station in Siparia, a mother and a daughter would have lost their life. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, that is a situation that we have to address here today. So again, what benefits comes with this bill? When the member before said it comes with improved services, the fire station provides a service. So I would like the minister in his winding up to say what services will be improved. We in the opposition see that the reform or change, as some would prefer to call it, is not being proposed for the purpose or aim of local government reform to contribute to the realization of a greater Trinidad and by extension Tobago, by promoting meaningful decentralization of significant aspects of the local government system. What the local government bill seeks to do is to reorganize the governance structure of the regional corporation. In principle, I have no real difficulty with this. Again, we on this side have no difficulty with this. The difficulty, however, is that we cannot reorganize and rearrange the governance structure. As we can do this as much as we want. But if we do not deal with the fundamental problem of the lack of resources, we are spinning top in mud. When we speak of resources, a key component, of course, would be the allocations from central government. Madam Speaker, and this bill does not lay out any increases with regard, Mr. Deputy Speaker, my apologies. It does not lay out any improvement with regards to the allocations that will be given to both Siparia and Diego Martin. Local government is integral to everyday life, as every service is mostly a local government service, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, and the citizens depend on the services that the municipal corporations give or provide on a daily basis. And again, this bill does not itemize any improvement of these services. But I say this bill is another failure in an opportunity for real reform. We could have, in this bill, stated that a borough would get X amount of allocations, which would set them apart from a normal regional corporation. But we did not do that, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Instead, we are basically amending the Act 25 to provide a name change, a status. Rank without bank. Persons in Trinidad and Tobago, Madam Speaker, would have loved to see that this bill speak to Mr. Deputy Speaker. Persons would have loved to see that we use this opportunity to localize the fight on crime. Each municipal corporation is assigned municipal police that have access to resources that could have been improved within the realms of this bill. That was not done. We could have localized the fight on crime. So I call this bill a missed opportunity. The municipal police section in the municipality of Siparia and the municipality of Diego Martin could have been used to assist the predial larceny squad in the Ministry of Agriculture. We missed the opportunity. Persons in Trinidad and Tobago, when the House would have convened after the symposium, would have loved to hear that amendments was coming to the bill to localize the fight on crime. So again, I call this a missed opportunity. When I noticed, Madam Speaker, that this bill was just a name change, I was taken aback because the bill did not fix the root problem. Madam Speaker, and when you look at various newspaper articles coming out of from October last year to as recent as February this year, each article would have spoken to the lack of funding, insufficient allocations, shortage in staff. Madam Speaker, and one of the articles that came from a Guardian headline on Friday, October 7th, was a councillor from the Siparia Corporation, which stated the Siparia Corporation is plagued by equipment shortage. Madam Speaker, but this bill does not address that. It does not speak to the root problem within the soon-to-be borough of Siparia. Neither does it speak to the borough of, well, soon-to-be borough of Diego Martin. Madam Speaker, the current state of Siparia as it is right now, and Madam Speaker, this assessment came from the Council of Siparia. Siparia is plagued with potholes, as is the rest of Trinidad and Tobago. 25 landslips in urge of, Madam Speaker, it is in urgent need of repairs, as it is hindering families and communities from accessing jobs, accessing school safely. It is preventing commuters, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in the Corporation of Siparia, as it is to date, they do not have a road officer 1 or a road officer 2. Madam Speaker, and if me coming from the belly of local government would know how important these 2 officers are in the general scheme of things with regards to doing PSIP projects, submitting estimates with regards to getting funding. And you would have heard the minister state that corporations would have allowed funding to return. And that is because, Madam Speaker, they do not have the necessary technical staff to perform the duty, to submit the necessary documents in order to get the allocations in a timely manner. Madam Speaker, and this bill does not speak with regards to amending or fixing the labor shortages that exist within these corporations. And one of the main things that was highlighted in doing my research to prepare for this debate, Madam Speaker, when you speak to the council, no consultation was done. Madam Speaker, but we are here today to debate and to agree on the way forward. The reason why, Madam Speaker, and I'll put some historical context, the reason why citizens must be excused for concluding that this legislation is nothing but cosmetic name change. In Trinidad, history has been that major and strategic towns over time can evolve to borough status based on the level of economic development and population. The population both works and live within this municipal or town that is itemized. The Regional Corporation of Siparia includes several major towns, such as Siparia, Faizabad, Cedros, Labre, and other towns that in their own right, Madam Speaker. Therefore, this goes against the grain in terms of history of Trinidad and Tobago. This history has taught us that there is a natural progression from major town to borough status, and ultimately to city status. The name change of Siparia and Diego Martin abandons the course of history. Ultimately, it would make no material difference in the lives of the citizens, as it amounts to a cheap gimmick. Madam Speaker, and this gimmick is similar to when this government would have changed the name of a bus stop to a transportational hub. Chaguanas, for example, grew to a major town before 1990, when it was granted borough status by the then NAR government. Today, Chaguanas has all the trappings to become a city. What makes an area a borough? There usually is a more dense population. Madam Speaker, the development pattern is trending towards an urbanization and away from traditional farmland. On these 2 principles alone, it is very difficult to see that the government is taking on board the principles of physical development in their determination. When Chaguanas was created, the largely urban area was cut out of the county of Caroni, with only adjoining rural areas included, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and you saw the foresight of the then government. But here we are today discussing a mere name change, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a name change that does not eliminate the main problem, which is the access to funding. This bill does not treat with, as I stated before, allocations. Madam Speaker, just last year, we would have seen existing boroughs, and I will go back to the Shogwanas Borough Corporation. They were in the news, Madam Speaker, because they had existing problems, and problems that they did not have the financial capacity or the necessary allocations at the time to fix the problems and issues that arise in the market. These issues was not just plaguing the vendors, but also the patrons, because it was a health risk. A health risk because it dealt with regards to the sewer and also with regards to the chillers in the market. Madam Speaker, I'm raising this to show that the government made no effort, or that Shogunas don't have any special allocation because it is a borough with regards to fixing their current issues. So before we fix the issues of our current boroughs and corporations, we are here today to elevate 2 more corporations to borough status, giving them no more amenities. They would have, according to this bill, there is no special funding. It doesn't state that their budgetary allocation would increase. There is no way that they'll be able to fix their existing problems, Madam Speaker. And this is a problem, Madam Speaker, but as each problem, there are solutions, Madam Speaker. It is time that funding arrangements for local government bodies are fixed, preventing arbitrary changes by the whim of any government. Madam Speaker, I cast no aspersions on any minister, but to say that just as it is done in Tobago, where a set percentage of the fiscal allocation must go to the THA for the benefit of Tobago, similarly, there should be a set percentage for municipal corporations in Trinidad. The winner of this will be the people, the burgesses across the land. Madam Speaker, and the member of Siparia would have raised on several occasions and has been advocating for local government spending to reflect the funding needs based on population size, economic activity, and physical land space. The issue of corporations such as Siparia Corporation not receiving their approved funding is something that seems, Madam Speaker, and it has to be stated because it's written in numerous newspaper articles that I could draw to your attention. It affects UNC-led corporations. You constantly hear of the challenges that the UNC-controlled corporations are facing with respect to releases versus allocation. Madam Speaker, when it comes to releases versus allocation, we could sit here and allocate X for Shagwanas, but we don't get that in reality with regards to releases. Madam Speaker, this can be addressed with fixed percentage as allocations based on criteria, and as I stated, just as it is done for the Tobago House of Assembly, it could be done for our municipalities. We need local government reform to ensure what is promised to the people in the appropriation bill, Madam Speaker, that becomes a reality. And we are not hoodwinked that we would sit here in the month of September, October, and discuss certain figures, and during the fiscal year, that does not materialize. Madam Speaker, if that is laid out in this bill before us here today, we on this side will gladly raise our hand in support. When the allocation of funding cannot be adequately distributed, in a timely manner to deal with the serious issues in existing boroughs, what then is the point of upgrading? As the member that spoke before me said, she said, the member for Arima said with regards to the upgrading and the elevation of the two municipalities. Madam Speaker, but I do not regard it as an elevation, as it comes with no benefits. Madam Speaker, and the fix to all of this is, as the Prime Minister would have stated recently, a little tax will fix this too. And I paraphrase, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, but how much more taxes can the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago bear to pay? I wish to remind this government that it is the final straw that breaks the camel's back. How much more taxes can we afford to pay? We are already paying taxes.
Just in terms of, again, so far I've been understanding what you're doing. This is not about taxation, unless you're going to tie it to the bill. Okay? So I just, giving you early warning.
Madam Speaker, if you would allow me, it is in response to the member for Diego Martin Central. When he began his budget contribution, Madam Speaker, he referred to tax. And if you'll, this is page 57 of the Hansard. What is the purpose of reform? The member is talking about legislation.
But remember, we're not talking about reform here. We're talking about the two municipalities. And if you're quoting the Hansard, the proper way you quote the date of the Hansard and the page, I don't know what date.
Speaker, and forgive me. Madam Speaker, this is the 10th of February, 2023, page 57. And the member is quoted as saying, what is the purpose of reform? The member is talking about legislation coming. That is the purpose of local government reform. That is the purpose of property tax, to address all these issues, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, I am saying, how much more can we tax the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago? And as I was itemizing, taxes, the citizens are currently paying tax on online purchases. The so-called environmental tax, also known as the tire tax, Madam Speaker. The removal of the fuel subsidy that affects every aspect of our daily lives with regards to the cost of food, because gas fuels everything, Madam Speaker. But the most recent price increase due to the cost in fuel, Madam Speaker, we would have seen recently that a $3 increase in the wholesale price of eggs, Madam Speaker, resulting from, Madam Speaker, because of the transport costs. A dozen eggs now cost $30 on a daily basis, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and this was taken from a newspaper article, and I could quote the date, Madam Speaker. And also we would see the increase in the Green Fund. And this is just a couple of the taxes that the citizens have to pay. And now they have to deal with the dreaded property tax whenever it is reinstated. Madam Speaker, the impact of this bill on the two municipalities, I cannot say that it will be one that will alleviate the problems of vehicle shortage, the fact that Siparia on some days cannot afford fuel. And in my closing, Madam Speaker, I would just like to say, once more, I ask, why was Diego Martin and Siparia chosen? Was this a case of politics over governance? Does the population density of these two areas warrant a mayor? Will having a mayor ensure that resources more adequately reach the people? The members on the opposite bench have tirelessly denounced the opposition's argument that there's lack of consultation, but in this case, there was none. Madam Speaker, the government continues to make decisions contrary to the principles of democracy. This is not our
Honourable
caring
Member,
government.
the original speaking time is now spent. You're entitled to 15 more minutes to wind up your contribution, if you so wish.
Yes, Madam Speaker,
You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, as I was stating, this is not how a caring government operates. Our government listens, and then, Madam Speaker, it set policies to alleviate the problems in society. And I thank you for the time, Madam Speaker, that you would have given me to respond and to participate in this budget, Madam Speaker, in this Borough debate. Thank you.
Member for Tunapuna.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member for the constituency of Tunapuna, I am grateful to enter this debate this afternoon. This very important debate in order to bring about the borough of Diego Martin and also the borough of Siparia. As I rise to make my contribution in this debate to amend the Act of the Municipal Corporations, Chapter 2509, which will establish the borough of Diego Martin and the borough of Siparia, and the consequential amendments that will go with this particular amendment. Madam Speaker, you know, the previous speaker, the Honorable Member for Muruga Tableland, you know, keep trying to say that why was Diego Martin chosen, why was Siparia chosen, but it would be as a result of long outstanding preparation, documentation that has been provided in order to justify what we are doing here this afternoon, Madam Speaker. As a Burgess, as a previous local government practitioner, and a local government councillor at the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation for a period of 5 years. Within those 5-year period, I was fortunate to be the vice chairman of the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. So I believe I have a say here this afternoon, Madam Speaker. I represent and I'm a member of the People's National Movement, and it's my sincere desire that at the conclusion of this debate, I will join with my colleagues of this Honourable House in congratulating the Burgesses, councillors, aldermen, community, staff, and all individuals of both the Diego Martin Borough and the Siparia Borough at the end of this particular debate. The bill before us is a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Municipal Corporations Act, Chapter 2504, to establish the Borough of Diego Martin and the Borough of Siparia. It was laid in this August House by the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. Madam Speaker, over the years, the People's National Movement have committed to bring meaningful reform to local government. This administration has a vision of local government that is freed of the red tape that hinders local government bodies from carrying out their work in an effective and efficient manner. And today we are adding another piece of the puzzle, which is the local government reform. Yes, we have been hearing a lot about local government reform, and we know, Madam Speaker, it's the way to go. It is definitely the way to go in order to ensure that we bring the necessary amenities. As we always say, all politics is local. So we need to ensure. So whether it is that you may be able to say that Siparia is doing that right now as a corporation, Diego Martin is doing that right now as a corporation, why then should we elevate them to a borough status? Yes, Over the years, they would have shown the varied aspects and justification as to why we are here today in order to make the necessary amendment. While the other side would speak about local government reform, we are actually doing the work, laying the foundation, putting the necessary legislation in place to ensure that we operationalize the reform. That's important. We can talk local government reform, but it must be operationalized. And this is one aspect why we are here today, in order to amend the legislation to ensure that we bring on 2 additional boroughs, which will then take us from 3 to 5 boroughs within Trinidad and Tobago. The miscellaneous provisions, establishment of the Borough of Diego Martin and the Borough of Siparia Bill 2021, was introduced in the House by the Honourable Minister. The bill seeks to amend the Corporation Act and in order to establish the particular borough. Why the case for Diego Martin? That is the question we need to answer. Why the case for Diego Martin? The Diego Martin Regional Corporation had submitted a proposal to government to be named as a borough. Diego Martin is one of the fastest growing regions in Trinidad and Tobago, having over 150,000 burgesses, or people as we would say, living within the particular boundaries. And all of Trinidad and Tobago resources within its space. While some people may say there is no oil in Diego Martin, one prominent representative in the region, Chairman Ziegler Jack, countered, off Monos Island, and I quote, "From time to time you can see oil rigs out there. We are in close proximity to oil, and we have all benefited." The borough's boundaries would geographically include the Diego Martin West, Northeast, and Central constituencies. These constituencies are represented in Parliament by the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, respectively. Diego Martin Regional Corporation Chairman, in an interview with the Express newspaper on Tuesday, 24th November 2020, was optimistic on what the region's elevation to borough status meant for its overall development. We are overqualified to be a borough. The main basis of the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force is in the Diego Martin region. Ketron, to be exact. Stobles Bay for the Coast Guard. The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce headquarters is in West Moorings, and the Diamond Vale Industrial Park are examples of commerce within the Diego Martin region. It is further said, in order to meet the agricultural needs, the establishment of a food processing plant for farmers in the Diego Martin region. Yes, we also have agriculture in the Paramin region, which is also inclusive of the Diego Martin area, all in its way to Chagaramas. We are heavily fortified with some of the best residential areas in Trinidad and Tobago. West Moorings, Maraval, Piti
Madam
Valley.
Speaker, Standing Order 55-1B, the Honourable Member for Diego Martin Central, I believe when he spoke, traversed a lot of this. And I think the member needs to spare us the histrionics and the repeats. So 55-1, please.
Good observation.
Okay, so thank you, Member for Princess Tong, for so inviting me. Please continue.
We could also speak of, thank you, Madam Speaker, we could also speak of the opening of the Carenage Fishing Centre. Not sure if he mentioned that, Honourable Member. The new Carenage Health Centre, the University of Trinidad and Tobago campus in Chagaramas, all are modern health and educational facilities within the Diego Martin region. I'm coming to Siparia just now, Honourable Members, don't worry. I'm dealing with Diego Martin first. When all these components are put together, it is clear Diego Martin can attain borough status. We can now move on to hear what is in store at Siparia. Probably we may not get any objection from on that side. I see the member for Siparia is smiling. Siparia Regional Corporation passed a resolution to upgrade its status to borough. You know that the actual borough council actually passed a resolution in 2019 in order to be elevated to Siparia to a borough status. The Siparia Regional Corporation, honorable members, Tunapuna Piako will come shortly, don't worry. We're taking our time. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. Madam Speaker, the Siparia Regional Corporation is just over 51,000 hectares in size and ranks 6th among the corporate areas in the country. There's a mixture of land use in the Siparia region. Settlements of varied sizes.
Could we have some order, please, and comply with Standing Order 53? Member for Tinapuna.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, settlement of varied sizes. We have onshore areas and bases for offshore oil production in the Siparia region. We have ports in Siparia, industrial areas in Siparia, fishing centers in Siparia. None of these things were mentioned previously. Forestry areas, swamps, agricultural and numerous beaches stretching along the 100-kilometer coastline southwest of Trinidad and Tobago. Its western extremity is Icacus Point on the Serpent's Mouth Channel, and it lies between the waters of the Gulf of Paria and the Columbus Channel. Its eastern boundary is with the Penal-Debe Regional Corporation area, of which they share a lot of the communal space. Madam Speaker, there are 62 communities in this region. 3 of them shared with the adjacent Point Fortin Municipal Corporation region, and 3 with the Penal-Debe Regional Corporation. It is estimated that around 88,000 plus persons live within the region, and places the region as the 7th place among the corporation areas, but only 11th place in the density population with 1.6 persons per hectare. Only 2/3 of Trinidad and Tobago average, Madam Speaker. This low overall density is due largely to the extension areas of forests, swamps, and oil production lands in the region with virtually no residential population. But a lot of benefits again from the necessary forests, from the swamps, and the oil production. In Siparia, there is a growing economic activity in the region. There is an established industrial sector in the Siparia region, comprising the 3 major companies described. Apart from the direct contributions through jobs and spending on goods and services, the companies contribute to the community life, perhaps not as much as before or in the same manner, but in the more productive partnership arrangements. Companies like the Petroleum Company of Trinidad and Tobago, Lake Asphalt, National Energy Corporation. Through these economic activities, it has positioned the Siparia region great for economic growth and development, and blusters the argument for its transition from a municipality corporation to its borough status. Madam Speaker, these demands extend great beyond the areas of employment, numbers, and types. The skill sets, the higher standards of delivery and goods and services spanning the spectrum from infrastructure, public health, spatial planning, community, youth, sports, and social development and beyond, all within the framework for national development among these 2 boroughs that are proposed this afternoon, the Siparia and the Diego Martin Regional Corporations. Madam Speaker, as previously mentioned, this development today was not arrived at overnight, but by careful continued planning and building over the last number of years. Prior to the meeting office in 2010, the PNM party had planned consultations, both local and foreign, with every municipal corporation, and in their stakeholders' population, it developed regional development plans. Each of the 14 regional corporations have their own regional development plan. And coming out of these plans, the various recommendations would have been made based on the strategic development for each particular regional corporation. So it has been said, why not Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation? Right? Why not? All right, you want Princess Town, member for Naprima? No problem. But based on the developmental, structural, strategic plans, the justifications will have to be made. And at this time, Madam Speaker, the justification before us is for the Siparia Regional Corporation to become a borough and the Diego Martin Regional Corporation to become a borough. Who knows? I would like Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation to be next. So to the minister and to our cabinet team, that's one of the next operations that we can be looking forward to. Tunapuna Piako being a borough corporation, and probably Naparima request, member for Naparima request might be able to make the grade. Madam Speaker, these plans can be used as a starting point for the development of each municipal corporation throughout Trinidad and Tobago, right, for each particular one, right? It's not by VAPs or by the whims and fancies of anyone. Long, outstanding planning that had been taking place in order to bring us to this day in April 2023. It must be noted that the amendment to the Tongue and Country Act also resulted from this exercise, forms part of the infrastructure for the improved delivery of services at the local government level. We complain daily about the services not reaching the communities, not reaching the burgesses, and we anticipate that as a result of achieving the borough status, much improvement can take place between these two particular boroughs, the Siparia and the Diego Martin regional corporations. The proposal for the boroughs of Diego Martin and Siparia today is not a sudden development, but part of a well-thought-out plan for the development and for the progress of the government desire to ensure improved delivery of goods and services to its population and to the burgesses of these regions. Madam Speaker, at this time I would just like to make mention that we currently have 3 existing boroughs. The Arima Borough Corporation, right, the only royal chartered borough in the Western Hemisphere. We have the Shagonas Borough, which was established in October 1990.
Madam Speaker, I hate to do this to my friend. 55-1, we've heard that from every speaker, the whole history. It's tedious now.
Point 14 was mentioned.
So, Member for Tunapuna, I have to uphold the objection in terms of the 3 existing boroughs. I think we have traversed that ground sufficiently, so maybe you could develop another point in your contribution.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Features of a borough? Let me try features of a borough. Boroughs will be chaired by mayors and deputy mayors. They will have the powers to set up and control special mayor's fund. You all know that mayors can serve as justice of the peace. I don't think nobody mentioned that. Right? So therefore we'll have the mayor of San Fernando, of Siparia and Diego Martin. You mentioned it, member? Lead regional coordination committees that include a range of stakeholders, not limited to local government system. Another feature concerning the hierarchy of settlements in Trinidad and Tobago, a town with a borough status falls just below what is city as it relates to population size and the quantity level and the types of services to be provided. A borough will be able to have enhanced living spaces and communities. A borough will be able to operate with more economic development and progress.
Madam Speaker, again, 55-1.
Okay, so again, member, part of the difficulty of coming late in the debate, and this goes for everybody else who will speak after, is that a lot of the ground would have been traversed already. So I advise you to develop on another point with respect to this bill. I think we've traversed what is a borough, what boroughs have, and so on, in the general context. So I invite you to maybe deal with a point with Diego Martin and Siparia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Siparia region accounts for only 4% of commercial business activities. Again, we anticipate that as a result of achieving this new borough status, that further development would be able to take place in order to ensure that that percentage of commercial development would improve. Again, we can talk about the Siparia Chamber of Industry and Commerce that is in place. We can talk about Siparia having one of the largest number of schools in any community, and they also have 3 secondary schools within that particular region. Again, Madam Speaker, again, as mentioned by you, the idea of being limited in scope in terms of having to enhance what, again, can be said within this particular debate. I know a lot have been said, and again, I would have been able to make my particular contribution. So as I conclude, I would just like to conclude with a quote from our Honorable Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, and I quote, "In the People's National Movement, we see local government as bringing down authority and responsibility of service right to your doorsteps, because what you need, where you live, are all local government issues." So, Madam Speaker, local government is serious business for serious people, and the People's National Movement is about serious business. Madam Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Member for Cuba North.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for recognizing me and affording me this opportunity to contribute to this debate, the miscellaneous provision establishment of the Borough of Diego Martin and the Borough of Siparia Bill 2021. Madam Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to join this debate on what may seem to be somewhat an oxymoronic piece of draft legislation, in that while the bill contains only 6 clauses that represents a name change and the insertion of such into 5 other substantive acts of Parliament, in reality, it is perhaps one of the most impactful change to our local government system in several years. This is the 14th time that the Municipal Corporation Act is being amended. Madam Speaker, members opposite profess to be part of a government that says that it is serious about local government reform, but yet we are here to advance legislation that would create history.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to Wednesday, the 26th day of April, 2023 at 1:30 p.m.
So, honorable members, before I put the question on the adjournment of the House, on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, our country will observe Eid al-Fitr, and I now invite members to express greetings. Member for San Fernando. Yes, you can make it here. Member for San Fernando West.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I offer salams and greetings to this honorable house and to the national community on the celebration of Eid al-Fitr, which is scheduled for tomorrow. Eid al-Fitr is the smaller of the two Eids, or celebrations, recognized in the Islamic community. The second festival is Eid al-Adha, which is the festival of sacrifice, and both of these celebrations are celebrated around the globe. Rooted in the philosophy that grounds Islam, or submission to the will of God, is the concept of a community, the Ummah, as it's referred to in Arabic. The Ummah is intended to communicate a global community, and is much more than a country, a balad, or a form of nationhood. And in celebrating Eid al-Fitr, the breaking of the fast, the community of Muslims around the globe all have sight upon the moon and the end of fasting, obligatory fasting for the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is in fact reference to burning heat in Arabic. It literally is reflective of the hottest month of the year, usually as the lunar cycle takes the month from time to time. But it is the first day of the month that follows, Shawwal, which is the month that begins tomorrow, that really recognizes the end of fasting. In the period of fasting, the reference to its meaning, Ramadan, burning heat, is really a play upon the depth of Arabic in and of itself, because the burning of fasting is exacerbated or made more severe by the fact that your human desire is what is on watch. Hunger, which reminds you of the poor and distressed in society, echoes loudly when you don't eat between sunrise and sunset. When you think of thirst, the thirst for knowledge, the thirst for life, the thirst for satisfaction, the human sacrifice in fasting, which is common to all religions, as all religions practice fasting, it becomes something that again binds the Ummah al-Arabiya, Ummah al-Muslimin, the community of Muslims. And dare I say that Islam, being a religion which is recognized very synonymous to Christianity and Judaism, in the belief of one God and in the practice, all being good books, as the Quran itself recognizes, for it says effectively to respect the synagogue and the church, for their good worship is done. These religions harmonize the meaning of community. If we look to the principles of Islam which Trinidad and Tobago embraces and which the government embraces together, we recognize certainly that we're dealing with the 5 pillars in common to all of the community of Trinidad and Tobago. The 5 pillars of Islam, of course, are Shahadat, which is the declaration of belief in God. You look to Salat, which is prayer, which every religion in Trinidad and Tobago recognizes, be we Hindu brothers and sisters, Muslim brothers and sisters, or Christian brothers and sisters, Shouter Baptists. If we look to the principle of Zakat, which is the giving of alms, every religion practices giving of alms. If we look to Sawm, which is fasting, again we find commonality in this Ummah al-Muslimin, the community of Muslims, which tomorrow recognizes and binds the community of Trinidad and Tobago. And lastly, that pilgrimage of Hajj, or making the journey to a holy place. And again, there is that community and commonality in Hinduism, in Christianity, in so many of our religions. Madam Speaker, the government recognizes the importance for our Muslim brothers and sisters. But today, from my own part, I recognize how in common it is to the Ummah, or the community of Trinidad and Tobago. Certainly, Eid al-Fitr, the breaking of the fast, and the mandatory giving of alms tomorrow, that mandatory wajib, the duty that is upon you to give to the poor and more distressed, It could not be more relevant in our society than now, where kindness is what is appreciated, where giving is what is appreciated, where compassion is what is appreciated. And on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, I wish to celebrate the Ummah, the community, to say Eid Mubarak or congratulations on the Eid festival to our Muslim community, to have wished a Ramadan Kareem or a kind Ramadan where reflection and prayer was had, and genuinely, on behalf of us all, to wish Trinidad and Tobago a better future, having passed through a month of fasting and prayer. Madam Speaker, I thank the Honourable Prime Minister for recognizing in early succession the support that the government has offered traditionally to the Muslim community during this time, as well as how equal that has been to our other religious sectors. The government wishes Eid Mubarak to Trinidad and Tobago, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Assalamu alaikum. I greet you with the universal greeting of peace. I begin in the name of Allah, the most beneficent and most merciful. Eid al-Fitr marks the end of the holy month of Ramadan, a month of immense sacrifice, prayer, and charity. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims from all over the world engage in fasting, which is one of the 5 fundamental pillars of Islam. Allah says in the Holy Quran at Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 183, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu kutiba alaykum wa siyam, kama kutiba ala ladhina min qablakum la'alakum tattaqun. O ye who believe, fasting is prescribed to you, as it was prescribed to those before you, so that ye may become God-fearing. Muslims refrain from food, drink, bad deeds, action, and thoughts from dawn to dusk. Fasting is not meant to make us hungry or thirsty, but rather it is meant to increase our taqwa, our God consciousness. It is meant to be a shield for us as Muslims. It teaches us about being grateful for the mercies of your Lord. It makes us experience what a person without food or drink faces on a daily basis. And whether you are rich or powerful, fasting humbles you and causes you to experience what a hungry person feels like. The difference is many of us anticipate that at the end of the fast, in time for iftar, we are guaranteed something to eat or drink. But that hungry person does not have the same luxury. And as Muslims, we believe that those who fast will have a special gate, the gate of Rayhan in Jannah, to enter. And I pray that we are given that reward. During Ramadan, we often look forward to iftar time, where we enjoy spending time with each other and sharing a meal to commemorate the breaking of the fast. Several mosques from all over Trinidad and Tobago would have hosted iftar and dinner. And today, I wish to pay special acknowledgement to those who were involved in the preparation and distribution of meals. Iftar is a time of togetherness, fellowship, and prayer. In the night, we perform a special night prayer called Taraweeh. Many of us would engage in this prayer, and some were fortunate enough to have listened or recited to the entire Quran. I'm grateful to all of the Imams who have led us in prayer. Ramadan is divided into 3 parts. The first 10 days we ask for the mercy of Allah. The second 10 days we ask for the forgiveness of Allah. And the last 10 days we are asking for the freedom from the fire of hell. One of the odd nights in the last 10 days of Ramadan, we also try to attain the blessings of the night of power Laylatul Qadr, which is better than 1,000 months. These are all the mercies of the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is a bittersweet moment. And as we wish farewell to the holiest month in the Islamic calendar, our hearts are heavy. It is a time where we reflect whether we have another opportunity to witness and reap the rewards of the blessed month. We have seen many close friends and family members who have lost their lives. I attended 5 funerals in this holy month of Ramadan, which brought home to the reality of how fragile life is. I pray that we live to see many more Ramadan. Muslims seek out the new moon at the end of Ramadan to mark the celebration of Eid al-Fitr. And today, many of our Muslim brothers and sisters who are celebrating Eid, I say Eid Mubarak. Tomorrow, there are other Muslims who will celebrate Eid al-Fitr, inshallah. We are taught in Islam to be respectful to each other. And today, while many of our Muslim brothers and sisters are celebrating Eid at the masjid or at home, we are here. We must be mindful of respecting each other. It should not be that you should be told to absent yourself or abandon your duty in order to practice your religious beliefs. Muslims have faced our challenges in Trinidad and Tobago, with having to fight for the right to wear hijab, or more recently, being able to wear a beard in keeping with the tenets of our religion. Muslims have played a critical role in the development of Trinidad and Tobago. We have served in many capacities, from the head of state, in the parliament, in the judiciary, and all other aspects of the public and private sectors. Ramadan teaches us to continue to give and be charitable. Eid is a time of celebration. So while we enjoy that nice cup of sawine and curry goat, let us remember there are those who are in need and we must give to them. Let us be our brothers and sisters keepers. Let us build our country together. I pray to Almighty Allah that He gives us the reward of our sacrifices in this holy month of Ramadan. I especially pray for our safety, peace, and harmony in Trinidad and Tobago, considering our prevailing circumstances. I stand proud as an elected Muslim Member of Parliament, and on behalf of the opposition, I wish Trinidad and Tobago Eid Mubarak. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, I am honored to offer greetings to the Muslim community of Trinidad and Tobago as its members celebrate Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr is a joyous celebration traditionally lasting 3 days. Muslims mark the occasion with private commemorative efforts such as cleaning and preparation of their homes, the preparation of and eating of special delicacies, wearing new clothes, and community events such as communal prayer, giving of gifts, and visiting friends and family. During this time, Muslims also engage in giving of alms to poor and the vulnerable. Honorable members, Eid al-Fitr is the culmination of the holy month of Ramadan. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar and observed worldwide by Muslims as a month of fasting, abstinence, prayer, reflection, and community. Indeed, Ramadan demonstrates the balance between endurance and human fragility, as this is a great time of personal, physical sacrifice for many, but it is also a time of spiritual reflection and contemplation aimed at drawing closer to God. Therefore, honorable members, as we observe Eid al-Fitr this weekend, let us reflect on the sacrifice, discipline, and resilience of our Muslim brothers and sisters, which they have endured during Ramadan, and apply these principles to our own lives. I therefore take this opportunity on behalf of the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and on my own behalf to extend Eid Mubarak to the Muslim community. Honorable members, the question is that the House do now adjourn to Wednesday, April 26, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to Wednesday, April 26, 2023 at 1:30 p.m.